Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. We're going to be making a melodic techno lead very much similar to this. And we're going to make it in Vital. This is the original synth I made it in anyway, but I'm going to show you using nothing but what's available in Vital. And then I'm going to show you the processing here on the left-hand side. We've got some effects modulation, which is essentially just a volume shaper. So we're creating the pumping effect. And then we're using the OTT, the Cubase version, so you can just use OTT. I've done this so you can just copy this at home with your plugins. And then a basic EQ plugin. So for the effects modulator, you could use the LFO tool, you could use Tal Filter 2 as a free option, or any other ones like Shaperbox, etc. So let's build this sound. So I'm going to mute that and solo this one. And we're going to start with this sound. I'm going to start with the envelope shape first. So I'm going to bring this down. And I'm going to bring it to about 350 milliseconds, as you can see, dead on. Couldn't get any better than that, 350, dead on the dot. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to bring up the release. And the sustain a little bit. The sustain boost just helps that release flow a little bit. And you want to make sure those notes are not overlapping too much, that they're starting to sort of like crunch into each other. And just to quickly let you know, if you are a Patreon supporter, you can get hold of this final preset as a download as well as early access to the video. So they will have seen it a lot earlier than people on YouTube, but there's plenty of other stuff on there as well. With this, we're going to load in the sampler. And we're going to send this to filter 1. So we want both of these, the oscillator and the filter, to go to filter, the sampler to go to filter 1. I'm going to leave it off for a second. And I'm going to blend this in so we can just about hear it. So it's just adding some sparkle and a little bit of crunch onto the sound, but stick around to see my extra tip near the end of this video to see what we can do to that oscillator to make it even more authentic to that sort of genre. Back to the envelope, we're just going to up the attack. I don't want too much attack on this. I want it to be a little bit less transient heavy, because the kick and the clap are going to do those sort of things. I don't want these sort of like merging with them and causing any issues. So I'm just going to bring it up a smidge. About 0.0004 there does just fine. It just gets rid of that snap at the beginning, but to the untrained ear, it sounds the same. All right. With that, we're going to leave it as it is. We're just going to jump into the effects and we're going to put some reverb on this for now. Here we are. I'm just going to cut the lows out to about 250-ish. Bring the mix up a smidge. Time up to about 5 seconds, bit of size, and I'm just going to make the responsiveness of the lows in this reverb just that little bit cut off, so maybe about 70-ish hertz. And that will do. I'm going to bring that mix down just a smidge as well. Okay, let's shape the filter. So next up, we turn this on. We bring down the resonance for now. We can shape that in a second. I'm going to bring the cutoff down to about 130-ish hertz, something like that. Now we can't hear anything. That is good. We're going to use the second envelope here, and we're going to click and hold, drag. And you can see now we can drag this onto parameters. I'm going to bring this down to the cutoff. And you can see auto populates from the current position all the way up to the maximum. So that's fine for now whilst we shape it. We can change that in a second. So making this a little bit shorter to about 300-ish milliseconds. Make sure you bring up that release. You could just put it all the way to the top, to be honest, but just make sure you bring it up so it keeps that continuity of the master envelope release time, so that you don't have any sort of like weird glitches and dropouts and things like that. It'll just sound a little bit odd and unprofessional. And then I'm going to adjust this so we can just barely hear it. To about there, and I'm just doing this by clicking and dragging this modulation wheel and controlling how much is actually being affected. And you can do that up here as well, and you can even do this in the matrix with the amount here. I'm going to click and hold the mod wheel drag it onto the cutoff as well. Make sure you don't drag it on top of your existing modulation, but onto the cutoff. So now we have two modulations, and the modulation wheel is opening up the filter, so that's absolutely fine. That's all we want. And you can use the macro to control that if you wanted to. It's up to you entirely. So I'm going to open up the mod wheel, and I'm going to add some drive. Be careful you don't go too far. It's going to start sounding a little bit more squarish, just the nature of that particular overdrive that is on the filter. And that is it for now. So stick around for the extra detail I'm going to show you to make this a little bit more authentic with the oscillator and the white noise. But for now, we're going to dip out of this and we're going to look at the processing that's happening. So I've got an effects modulator creating the pump effect. And we can mitigate this using that, so we can make it less intense and less impactful, but we're going for the full pump effect from 0 volume to full volume. So we're just imitating some side chain there using volume shaping, so don't forget you can use Tal Filter 2 if you want a free option there. Then we're using Squasher. Now what this is OTT from Xfer Records essentially, but it's Cubase's own version, Steinberg's own version, and it works just as well, but it has more features, so it sounds really nice. And what we're doing here is we're going to make this sound a lot thicker and just make it sound like the note length is a lot longer. So what's happening is you can see there is some expansion happening on here, but we're going for this downwards, so the compression part of it, we're squashing it down and bringing out the details. So the more you squash the sound down, all the lower level stuff will come out more, such as delay, reverb, and all that sort of stuff. So it'll bring out the level. And it's using that release time that we set to really bring out more of the note length. Now, you notice that that's happening. I'm going to create a copy just before my pumping effect, so the volume shaping. Just listen to the difference when I turn this on before the modulator. And after. So what we're doing there is we're accentuating all the sound that's coming from the effects modulator, so all of that, into that squasher, which is then picking up all the minute details. If you put it before, like I just showed you, it doesn't pick up as much detail. And usually we would avoid putting a compressor after the volume shaper because it confuses the compressor, but because we're being creative with this, it doesn't matter that much. And then finally, we have an EQ just rolling out the lows to make sure it's all nice and neat. That'll be different for your track or whatever you're trying to create, so just be mindful of that. Finally, we go through a send, and on this send, we are using that. If we just click here and solo this, we're actually using Valhalla Supermassive, and we're using the splashy synth preset, mix at 100%, and a little bit the lows mixed out there, just to make sure that you're getting the maximum from your send track. So with that added on, let's listen to, let's go to the sends here. So it's just helping wash in the background. It's not actually creating tons of reverb, it's just adding that nice little wash in the background. So I'd experiment with this. This is a very minute touch to the rest of that. And for those that have stuck around, this is the little trick that I wanted to show you with the oscillator to make this sound even more authentic. I'm going to turn this down on the white noise to 0. And we're going to use one of these shapers up here on oscillator 1. Specifically the right one, and you can see here at the bottom we have the ring modulation options. I'm going to choose ring modulation from sample. And what this is going to do is inject that sample, which is white noise in our case, into this waveform. So it's actually going to blend it in and modulate this waveform. As opposed to just having white noise. The white noise on its own is a lot cleaner, and we can make it a lot cleaner by passing it through a filter and rolling out the lows and all that sort of stuff, but this just makes it sound a little bit grittier, and just having a blend of both really makes this sound pop. And I would advise, I'm doing this just for the video to show you what we can do to make this sound a little bit more authentic and just give it a lot more grit to the sound, is make sure you turn off any sort of like processing that's happening on the channel so you can hear exactly what's happening. So if I turn off all of these and the send, you can truly balance it up, and then you can test it out by turning all your inserts on and turning that send back on. So let's listen to our new sound in the track. Let's mute the original. Let's listen to the whole section here and we'll finish the video. So there we are. That is the end of the video. That is a very simple preset to make, but then I've shown you a couple of extra bits if you've stuck around to see that. If you did, leave me a comment in the description to let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Take care.